change your positioning through your price. One thing I struggled with for a long time was raising my prices. I thought people would think, hey, this guy's too expensive, we don't want to work with him. Truth is, the opposite happens. Okay, coming to you live from the English countryside. I looked at my notes and I thought, what could I speak about today? And I thought about the concept of pivoting instead of quitting. There's been so many times in my career, short career, that I've wanted to quit, but I've pivoted instead. And that has led to great things coming. For those of you who don't know who I am, I make advertisement videos as a director and DOP. And I've been doing this for the past 5 years, making videos in general for the past 10 years. This year I had the chance to shoot a few more global campaigns and pivoted towards cars more. And I also shot a feature film project where I did the social media content and everything that lives on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok for that film, for Amazon Prime. How did I get from being a kid wanting to make skate videos to sort of earning money from all of this? The truth is a long as hell journey with a bunch of fuck ups and everything, and many years of not making money. I'd say 5 years of really on and off making money, and then the past 4 to 5 years of making good money. So it's a roller coaster, and it's been a roller coaster. So I've got to set the camera up quite far away from you guys because I want to let my son play, and I also don't want to share my son's face on the internet. So one of the biggest questions I get asked a lot is, should I niche down? I think this is a really interesting and highly debatable topic. From my experience, I didn't niche down at the start. I tried all kinds of things, and when something started to stick, then I decided, okay, I'm going to keep asking for referrals from this type of person. I didn't consciously do that at the time, but it was kind of something that happened when I reflect back on it. And there are benefits to niching down because, as I mentioned before, you can get referrals. So you can finish a project, you can ask someone, hi, is there anybody who you know who might need my services? And also, if you create a, shoe commercial, then it's very likely that another shoe brand will look at your commercial and think, I see my own product in that video that Nico's created. So there are real benefits to niching down. But riches are in the niches, or riches are in the niches, depends how you pronounce it. But not all niches are good niches, necessarily. I learned this the hard way because I tried to make videos for yoga instructors. And guess what? A lot of yoga instructors don't have a lot of money. So that was something I learned the hard way. Something that I could have done in hindsight is go, I've made a video for a yoga instructor. However, they are wearing yoga clothes and yoga brands have money, and I could have targeted and positioned myself doing fitness or well-being stuff and asked Alo Yoga or Lululemon to do a yoga video, or somehow found someone to do a project with them in that niche. So heading into, again, fashion and lifestyle niche. So had I been wiser, I would have told my younger self to do that and pivot instead of just completely quitting that. Because what I did was I went, yoga teachers don't have money. I stopped that completely. I need to do travel tourism, which, as some of you may know, is unbelievably tiring. There's a lot of money in the tourism industry, but it's extremely tiring and a lot of hours and somewhat unpredictable and a lot of, traveling. And I'd hate to do that now. If you're in a shitty niche, think about pivoting. Think about this question. How much do they sell their product for? If they sell it for a lot and they are a large company, chances are it is going to be lucrative for you. Something else, and a rule that I stick to now, is if I'm speaking to the owner of the company, chances is they can't afford my services. This is typical. Most companies that I work with, I speak to the marketing department. Not even most of the time I'm speaking to an agency that the marketing department has hired. That's typically because these companies are large enough to hire them, and then they have large enough budgets to work on and make videos with. The next point would be change your positioning through your price. One thing I struggled with for a long time was raising my prices. I thought raising my prices would harm my reputation or my place in the market. I thought people would think, hey, this guy's too expensive, we don't want to work with him. Truth is, the opposite happens, from my experience. After struggling for 5 years, I was charging so little. And the problem with this is that each time you work on a project, the person you worked with goes, hey, we really liked your work. You did it so cheap. I'm going to refer you to Kevin, who's their friend. And Kevin will work with you, but then they tell Kevin that they hired you only for 500 euros to make an insane amount of content. And it's really hard to get out of that cycle because you're positioned in Kevin's brain as somebody who's affordable or very cheap, who can give a load of work. And so it's really tough because psychologically you're thinking, if I ask for more, can I ask for more firstly? That's like a huge psychological thing that's all freelancers have to overcome at some point, is they think, wow, is my work worth this much? And it's scary at first to ask for more because you're almost like, well, why should I ask for more? Like, this person's paid me before, and you don't have evidence to justify why you should charge more for your work. But if you're in a situation like I was, where you just can't afford rent at some point because you're in this low cycle, this low paying videography cycle, then at some point you have to ask more to survive. And that is why it was a blessing and a curse for me to not have a side job or anything at some point, because I realized, if I'm going to pay for my living expenses this month, $2,000, then I better charge at least $2,000 to cover my living expenses. And so with this friction that is mostly internal, I decided to put my prices up, and you just ask for more. It sounds so simple. You don't need to justify it to anybody. You can ask for more. But if you're charging 500 euros, try charging 800. And each year, charge more. And what this does is it firstly gets you a higher income, which allows you to reinvest back into your business, which means you can potentially take on a passion project one month because the previous month you got a bunch of projects in, and this month you can push into a direction that you want to go in. It does so many things for you. And what this does in turn is it can position you in the market differently. What typically happens is you get a project request in, and then suddenly you feel this internal struggle and you go, I don't want to charge more. Like, I'm so used to charging 1,000 a day, but now I'm going to charge 1,500. Can I justify it? Oh my gosh. And you say it and you do it, you send over the proposal and you charge 1,500, and they accept it. Now, they don't always accept it. Maybe they go, that's too much. But most of the time, if you're working with a new client or you're doing good work, they accept it. They don't even question it. Hey guys, whilst I'm editing this, I realize that there's some nuances to this. Firstly, the rate that I'm saying in this video is for German advertisement and videography rates, typical. And depending on which part of the world you're from, it's going to probably be different. For example, they might also say, hey, for this project, we've only got 1,250 euros instead of 1,500 for a day. Can you do that? Oftentimes, I would just push for 1,500. I would just say, nope, 1,500. If it's someone that you really want to work with, if they do come back to me and they're like, hey, we don't have the budget, I would follow my NPP framework, which is essentially network, portfolio, profit. Does the project tick two of those boxes? So is it building my network? Is it a new agency, a new production company? Is it profitable? In this case, if they're negotiating me down on my day rate from 1,500 to 1,250, I'd be like, okay, no, it's not ticking the profit because that's the amount of money that I want to earn. But is it ticking the last box, which is portfolio? So it's in the direction, the project is making a video in the direction of what I want to make in the future or want to make now, which might be, for example, cars. And so there were times this year where I took on rates that were lower than my day rate because it was heading into a completely new portfolio, new direction, which I wanted to build, which was cars. And the network was new. So it was ticking two of those boxes. So that's one way to navigate it if they don't take your day rate. From my experience, it's hard to increase prices with a client that you're already working with. So if you wanted to go from 1,000 euros to 2,000 euros a day, that would be tough. They already have you positioned in their head as like this person who charges 1,000 euros a day. But let's say you're going to a new client, it's much easier. Something weird happens when you ask for more money. People tend to value things more the more they pay for it. I've experienced this with clients where I've charged them 1,000 euros for a whole project and they don't get back to me like at all. Whereas when I've charged 32,000 euros for a project, the clients or the agency is responding the same day, sometimes within 30 minutes. Because they care about it more. They've invested more into the project, so they pay more attention to it. They also value it more. It's a bit weird, but when you walk into a shop and you see a suit, the guy says, hey, try on this 500 euro suit. You try it on, and then you try on the 250 euro suit, and you just still kind of think at the end, you know what, fuck, that 500 euro suit is kind of nicer. It's probably made in China in the same factory, but you value it more for some reason. If there's ever a project that you ask for more money and they say no, then at least they have you positioned in their head as this person who is pushing for something great, and you cost a lot, or maybe you're too expensive this time, but at least you're a premium creator to them. And that's better than being a cheap creator. I can say that from experience. I've been a cheap creator for many, many years. Hi, Bear. All good? All good? Let's talk about the filmmaking world. So, in the filmmaking world, there are a bunch of different positions in production. You can be a producer, you can be a junior producer, you can be a line producer, you can be a first AD, you can be a second AD. There's so many jobs. And if you are aspiring to be doing something else, then it's always good to try and shadow or work on sets and see and figure out, especially at the start, which position you want to fit into. Because the truth is, heads of department are paid more. Obviously, you can't just teleport your way to the top, but you can sure as hell learn from and shadow other people who are already doing the thing that you want to do. So you could pivot positions inside the filmmaking world. There are so many positions. You could stack your skill sets, and instead of quitting and being like, you know what, fuck being a videographer, which is what I thought many, many, many times, I'm going to do a UX UI course, which I also thought a few times. I realized that there's these things called cinematographers, and there's these things called directors, and there's these things called producers. And I didn't even know about this when I was starting out, because I didn't go to film school. I learned everything from YouTube. But learn different skills, and learn those skills within a certain specific niche or department. And I went down the rabbit hole of learning more about directing. I decided 4 years ago, I don't just want to be a videographer, I want to direct more. So I learned what a treatment was. I learned what a shot list was. I learned simple things. I learned how to direct people. I learned how to make concepts. I learned how to convey my ideas in a clear and coherent way. I didn't quit. Instead, I just deepened my knowledge by learning more skills within that particular field that I was interested in. Gonna put you down here. God, he's getting so heavy. Each year there is a new level to this shit. So what I experience is, in my first year, I was doing work with people one-on-one. I was working with the business owner. Year 2 of being in Berlin, so this was my 6th year of freelancing, I realized that there were these production companies and these agencies, and I started to speak to them and started to realize how it was all working in Germany. And I didn't understand the advertisement or the filmmaking model back then, or for the commercial filmmaking model. And then I started to connect with them, and then I got higher quality jobs because these big companies hire these agencies and production companies to make their campaigns, so they have more money. So instead of working with individuals, I did that the second year. And then the third year I realized, I could essentially become an agency and a production company. I started to do that for social media videos, and I had direct-to-client relationships, and I started to get and be more in control of the budget, so I got more money. And then what happened the third year was that I kind of gave away the productions a bit more and started to just be a director of photography, so I wasn't producing as much, and a director, and then also edited on the side. And then it was just me and an editor. And then this past year, it's just been me directing and shooting and doing bigger campaigns. So instead of doing editing, I've barely edited this year, I've just shot and done bigger campaigns for global campaigns and had longer shooting periods, so 5 shoot days instead of just 1. And so if you take my day rate and you multiply it by 5, this pays a lot better than just a one-off shoot day. And it's crazy because it's like a similar amount of pre-production work, not a similar, there's more, but it's, your brain's still in one project instead of being in multiple projects at once, which is an absolute luxury. And so that only happened just by hanging around. And each year has seemed to have gotten better, and I've done more and more of the thing that I wanted to do, which is be on the creative side of things. However, I wasn't afraid to try all of those other things and to pivot and try producing and try all these other skills that are important to understand in the filmmaking process. So I've shot some global campaigns this year, and they won't get released till next year. And so I've kind of got to wait a year until people could see that work, and until I'm positioned in the market as someone who goes and shoots and directs global campaigns. So there's always like a benefit to sort of just hanging about. And the pivot over the past few years actually for me has not really been so much to do with skill. It's been to do with my network. And that's just speaking to different people and having different people come to me for my work who just have better opportunities. That's it. And deepening my relationships with my already existing friends and clients. So it's most likely that after your first 3 or 4 years of freelancing that you don't need to get better at color grading. Sorry. Unless you are a colorist and you just want to nail coloring. The person who's going to unlock, or the thing's going to unlock your next financial level or your next career goal is not going to be a skill thing, it's probably going to be a person. In terms of practical advice for this, if you don't know what to pivot to, there's often clues that are left from success. So let's say you shoot a project and that client paid you more than you've ever earned. Then maybe you should shoot more projects like that with the same types of clients. For example, it might be a furniture company and they paid you a bomb load, and then you're thinking, okay, why don't I do more furniture stuff instead of continuing to do, I don't know, maybe you're doing real estate right now. So for me, it was like, hey, this company at the time was paying me more money than I'd ever earned before, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to drop trying to reach out and do yoga stuff. I'm going to focus on this fashion stuff. And guess what? I basically earned a load of money that year from that client alone and treated them like they were my number one priority. And so from that, other brands saw that I work with this type of brand, and it led to more requests coming in, and it led to more trust because they see, hey, Nico's worked with this brand, that's a reputable brand, then maybe we can work with him. If there's success from your work, for example, it was something you really enjoyed, or it was something that paid you more, or it's something where it was very lucrative, then that's leaving a bit of evidence for you. Go towards that direction more. My final point, and one of my sort of favorite quotes that I'm going to butcher, is do not feel obliged to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. There's a massive identity thing in filmmaking that we all kind of struggle with, I think. It's like, can I call myself a director now? Or can I call myself a DOP now? Or when can I call myself really a director? I've had this a lot over the past few years. And honestly, the best directors and creators that I know have not waited for someone to call them a DOP. They've called themselves that first, and they believed in themselves first. I didn't wait for anyone to call me a director. I just called myself a director 4 years ago, and fortunately enough, I have become the person who I wanted to be. That wouldn't have come from me waiting around for a film school to call me a director, or for someone else to say, hey, you know what, you're a director. I just fucking owned that shit. And I think a lot of people do just own that shit. I was speaking to a friend on the past project. I said, did you go to film school? He said, no. I just started calling myself a DOP, and he charges a lot of money and makes a lot of money from it, and is fucking great at it and works on some of the best projects in Europe.